G'day, I'm James Baldwin, and it's great to have your company here on Oz F1 for another recap episode, this time for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola in Italy. Well, it was an almost incredibly boring race, wasn't it? We kind of predicted that it might be, with lack of overtaking with these humongous generation of Formula One cars. But our hero, as always, Daniel Ricciardo, to the rescue. He put it into third, and sharing a shoey with Lewis Hamilton on the podium was certainly something to see. At least he didn't forget this time. Stick with us as we recap the entire race, team by team, as we always do. Talk about the wonderful effort that it is for Mercedes to win the 7th consecutive Constructors' Championship. I can't believe that. Incredible effort by Toto Wolff and the entire team. And of course, we'll talk about the television broadcast and everything else in between. Let's get into it. And as always, I'm joined by these two magnificent human beings, Tommy T, Thomas J. Camp. Boys, another podium for Daniel Ricciardo. Things are probably looking up for the Australian. As I said in the intro, the second podium for him this year matches the same amount of podiums that he had with his last year in Red Bull in 2018. So if that's not a good news story, I don't know what is. And bring on McLaren next year, I reckon. Let's just get your overall thoughts of the race. Tommy T, your race thoughts first. Take us through what you thought.
About time Danny got lucky. I feel like all these kind of situations, he's always the one, wrong side of a safety car, wrong side of a decision. It was about time he bloody got some luck. So just stoked that he was right place, right time. Like, he still had a great race, and you can't take anything away from that, but a little bit of luck never hurts. That's true. Campy, what are your thoughts?
Oh, exactly, Tommy. You just well said it. Danny Rick got some luck. I was stoked to see Checo Perez pit, and I was like, you absolute muppet. What are you doing?
I think I wrote to the chat. I was like, do opposite of Checo. That's it. Just opposite. Yeah.
Other than that, it was a bit of a ball fest, which we kind of expected. I've been predicting it for a long time. Didn't see a lot of on-track passing. I mean, the faster cars were overtaking the slower cars with a bit of ease. But I think, this move we saw was signs on Norris early on in the race. Other than that, wasn't a lot going on. Good to see Kvyat get a result, but shame for Gasly too. He's in a good position. But that's motorsport. Suck it up, move on. Don't complain about it. And
so true.
Hey, life's good.
It's a beautiful part of the world, though, isn't it? 3 races in the same country in 1 year. I think the last time was in the US when they went Vegas and a whole range of other tracks. But really, the weather was almost perfect. It wasn't super sunny. It was kind of overcast, and the track was the right temperature. We didn't see too much in the way of having to manage the tyres. The softs let go pretty quickly, but think of Kimi Räikkönen, who was just, if he had pitted 3 laps later, he could have got in under the safety car. He pretty much did the Ocon from last week and was just holding off, just sort of banking, waiting for something to happen. Yeah. But it just goes to show that experienced drivers, and we love Kimi, and now that he's confirmed that he's signed on, that's also great, but can just drive these cars super quickly and also manage the tyres as well, and not have to whinge and bitch and moan like some others. But talking about others, let's touch.
I missed all of it. Who whinged?
Who do you reckon? Let's touch on Lewis Hamilton, like lap 3. Oh, my front left doesn't feel good. Continues basically the entire race on that set of tyres. Yeah. Let's talk about Mercedes, though. It'd be remiss of us not to talk about the fact that they have got 7 consecutive Constructors' World Championships. Toto Wolff looked very, very happy. An amazing effort. Campy, what do you think of the Mercedes crew for this year?
Setting records. What a team. 2 great drivers. The 1,500 people across their 3 workshops back in Brackley. The travelling circus with them. Awesome achievement. 7 in a row, never been done. They will probably go on to do the exact same thing next year with the same regulations in place for this year. Whether Toto and Lewis is around, still yet to be confirmed, but I reckon Toto will probably move away.
Yep.
And he signalled that last night, I think, in his post-race press conference. He basically said, I've reached my absolute capacity in my position that I'm in. So I've earmarked two people that he's got to choose between, which will take the team into the future. Whether he makes that decision now or at the end of the next year, who knows? But congratulations to them. They continually strive to get the best out of the car, the best out of themselves, and we saw with Das this year, just good on them in every aspect. So, yeah.
It seems to be the little things, doesn't it, Tommy T, that makes Mercedes as great as they are in the leadership of Toto. Yeah. What do you think?
It's easier said than done to maintain that excellence, because a lot of people would start going, well, I want my credit and I'm going to go to another team and show that I'm the reason that we're so good. But to hang on for 7 years and keep everyone involved, and they've had some losses. We've had people move on and do other things. Yeah. And to genuinely to keep that team firing as well as they are is so much harder than you think. Like, you look at other sports, maintaining excellence is one of the hardest things. 1 or 2 years is really achievable if you've got money and all those kind of things. But to keep it going for 7 years, and hopefully they're going to look like 8, it looks like at this stage. So
yeah,
incredible.
Pretty epic. Interesting point that you raised, Campy, about Toto and Lewis, and in terms of where he might be next year. Now, the press conference of the weekend after the race, it was said by Lewis that he's not even sure if he's going to be around for Formula One for next year, which was a bit of a bombshell to drop. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's true. I think he will be with Formula One next year. It'd be silly to give up that drive and a chance to absolutely smash out of the park a record like Michael Schumacher's. But in terms of what that looks like for his contract and for Toto, it almost is like they're playing chicken and egg. Toto's trying not to rush the whole thing and saying we're just going to give it time and no one's in a rush and we're all trying to figure it all out. But it's like, guys, it's November. It's the 2nd of November today. Christmas is not far away, and then it's the off-season. Then we're testing again pretty quickly. I think personally we're looking at a situation where Mercedes want to sign Lewis for a multi-year deal. Lewis probably wants 1 more year. I don't think, to be honest, he's going to be around for the next regulation changes in 2022. I think that'll be his marker in the ground where he goes, all right, I'm good now. I move on to something else. But interesting that we're sort of waiting for one thing over the other. So I think Toto will go first, and wherever he ends up going will sort of dictate where and how long Lewis will stay around for Mercedes. Interesting thought though, isn't it?
Lewis would be stupid to not drive next year.
Yeah.
Because
nothing's changing, really.
Not that the World Championship is a gift, but he would probably be gifted that World Championship next year, and he would probably win another 9 or 10 races, possibly more. We've got 23 races next year, so possibly 12 to 13 races if we keep that same number of consistencies that he's had in this turbo hybrid era. In saying that, you got to get sick of winning at some stage, don't you? He talks about wanting pressure. I'm not sure that that might be a bit of talk, but I don't think he wants to go out being beaten by a Max Verstappen type in his final year. He could walk away at the peak of his powers and do a Schumacher and come back in a couple of years' time. We know he's capable. We know behind a driving wheel he's good. But I think they're just playing games at the moment. I don't think they're really in a rush. He probably wants an astronomical amount of money out of Mercedes, and they're probably going to pay it. So we'll see what happens moving forward.
Yeah, Tommy, what do you think about that whole situation? It's a bit weird though, isn't it?
He's a coin flip next year to basically win it. It's him or Bottas, really.
Yep.
Max would have to do a hell of a lot next year, and that Red Bull would have to improve a fair bit. So to be one of 2 drivers potentially winning another championship, why would he not? Especially when he's been so consistent this year. Nothing's changing. I'm with you guys. I think walking into new regulations is just, it seems risky. I don't think he'd want to widen it. He doesn't need to. If he's got 8 world titles at that stage, are you going to go for the 9th when it's so unknown, like brand new playing field, you're getting older, all those kind of things? Does he want to start again? It's basically starting back at square one. I just don't know if he's going to do it.
He needs to do the Rosberg, get out on top and then start a podcast, but then actually be consistent with his podcast, release episodes regularly and be good. He'd actually be very good on a podcast, to be honest, because he's got access to some pretty incredible people around the world.
Yeah. I'd be here for the Heineken ads with his dad. That'd be better, at least.
The not beer ads. Not beer. Who would drink not beer?
It seems like an oxymoron to me. I don't understand why they're pushing it. Anyway,
Europeans, mate. They're weird.
Interesting.
Strange bunch.
There it is. Talking about a strange bunch, and in terms of a really strange way to tell Danny Kvyat that he's definitely not driving for AlphaTauri next year, Helmut Marko is on his own planet when it comes to announcing things. He's all but confirmed Yuki Tsunoda from Honda, or the Honda Junior program, I should say, is currently in F2 to step up into AlphaTauri next year. It just goes to show, again, and this point that I will keep raising, that we keep looking at this young crop of drivers trying to come in to race for Formula One. It's unnecessary. We said this last time around, either Checo or Hulk, potentially now because of Haas's announcement and Alfa Romeo's announcement of confirming those two seats, means that one of them's going to miss out. So surely you'd take both into the Red Bull family and then put one into AlphaTauri and one into Red Bull Racing. Would you not? Cream the crop drivers, they're ready to go. Tsunoda is a political move. They're trying to keep Honda happy to get the IP of that motor. I don't like it. It doesn't look good. Tommy T, you said something similar last night.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I can see that it's going to happen, unfortunately. I don't know where Albon's going to go, to be honest.
As you keep saying, he's confirmed for Formula E. He's confirmed by Tommy T to go to Formula E.
It's an unsourced.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I just don't see where he's going to go, unless he just falls into one of the leftover seats after the shuffle.
But there's no leftover seats. That's my point. Like it just... If
Hulk can't get a seat, Albon's definitely not.
Oh, it's so true. I'm surprised that we've seen Giovinazzi confirmed. Sorry, Campy, do go on. What were you going to add?
I don't understand why Honda want to get one of their young back drivers in when they're pulling out of sport next year anyway. I mean, I understand that Red Bull wants the IP, but what's Honda going to do with it anyway? Everyone knows moving forward that it's going to be a Honda engine, so they may as well just give it to them. To use politics to get a young kid in that doesn't deserve a drive, it's just bullshit to me. No, but this is the side of the sport that we constantly talk about and we bloody hate. We want to see the best drivers on the grid, the fastest, youngest talent, whoever that looks like, not Yuki Tsunoda because he's not that good. He'll be another Takuma Sato-like who shows glimpses, who's quick on his day but not going to be consistently there. There's other drivers in that F2 grid or outside of F2 that deserves that drive. Now, it's looking like Hulk and Perez probably won't get a drive next year because of the shit decisions of these teams moving forward. And it frustrates the shit. Oh, I just want to punch Red Bull so badly. Helmut Marko, you are a muppet.
So true.
It's true.
It pisses me off. I want to see someone go to toe-to-toe. I want to see someone put some pressure on Mercedes next year. Not going to happen with Albon. And Horner's talking like they're going to keep Albon. Why would you keep that kid in the car? He's been a dud since day one. In the 20 races that we've had between the halfway mark of this year and this year, he's done absolutely nothing. He's never been close in one qualifying session, and in race pace, he's been that far off. He's had the odd result after safety cars and blind good luck. That he may have had a couple of wins. He got one podium earlier on this year because he was shit. He was nowhere, but he came from nowhere because of the safety car as well. Just pisses me off to see. Even last night, Albon was so far off the pace in qualifying and race pace, couldn't do anything. Look at his teammate Verstappen going toe-to-toe with Mercedes. Imagine if they had two cars doing that. Someone helped Verstappen out. And now they're going to pick up a young dud in Tsunoda. It gives me the shit.
Do you know what's interesting? Saying that I'm sick of Formula One looking at the sort of the younger crop. It's the same with Helmut Marko, right? He has a lot to answer for in terms of the culture of Red Bull because there's a lot in there of Danny Rick and the pressure that, he's this king, right? I'm not really sure why he's the king anymore. Like, he made a couple of good choices earlier on in the Red Bull pool talent, like when he brought Mark Webber in, for example, outside of the pool to race, and obviously Seb. But just because he's always been doing that doesn't mean he should always continue to do that. And I think Dietrich might be well placed to think of other people who are around the Formula One paddock who have really good ability and talent in choosing younger drivers, but also managing the team culture.
I think Gunter?
Oh, mate, I still think Gunter should go to Ferrari as a team principal there. He's Italian. Jeez. So, he ticks that box and he would go in and shake everything up. All of the crap would fall out the bottom of the thing and he loved driving to work because he'd have a much, much better car than what he currently has. But do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't seem very fair to me that all of these decisions are making... And to be honest, Gasly last year, shocking This year, magnificent. It's really interesting to see that. Albon last year, magnificent with the drivers that he had, considering he was going to Formula E until Abu Dhabi, and then afterwards it's like, oh, okay, I'm taking over from Brendan Hartley. But even Brendan was a good example. These are people who are wonderful people who drive really well in their own right, put in the wrong culture and potentially a faster car, and doing the wrong things. Now, Tsunoda will drive quickly next year because the AlphaTauri is doing this, right? It's like it's punching its way up towards the top of the midfield pack here compared to the to the Renault and the Racing Points and the McLarens. So they're going to be able to have a good time in doing that. But tell you what, Helmut Marko has a lot to answer for, and it's not all good news. And we've seen that with obviously our boy Danny Rick having to leave the paddock.
Well, they're just not an easy team to deal with.
I bet you they're wishing they could do the undo.
Everyone on the grid can't stand dealing with them. They walk around the paddock like they should have Ferrari's power, but they don't. Anyway, let's move on.
Bet you they look back at that lineup, don't they? And they go, wow, we had Danny Ricciardo and Max. They go, geez, we shouldn't have stuffed that up.
Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen. The four drivers. What a team. What a team.
Yeah,
they had such a good junior program, and now they've all just got rid of them all.
But I mean, good. The fact that they sort of dropped Carlos Sainz there, and he had to sort his own life out, going to Renault, and ultimately McLaren and Ferrari. It's ended up better for him anyway, because come 2022, and I genuinely hope this, Ferrari will sort their lives out again and be a competitor up to the very top, and we might even see the resurgence of Ferrari as the winning team and the winning car, and Red Bull drop towards the mid pack. You don't know. All right, boys. Well, this is a new part of the podcast. We're going to have a question each week from one of our followers / listeners. This time is from Dave Munnis, who Tommy T says is a massive suck up. So there you go, Dave. How about that? No, this is great. We love this. He asks, he's keen for an update on the Melbourne Grand Prix, given that the GT Intercontinental at Bathurst is cancelled for January. Indeed, actually, the TCR Australia touring car race has announced its calendar for 2021, and there is no mention of Albert Park at all. There seems to be a Phillip Island race in February, but nothing in March, which is sad for me, because TCR is one of those things that I want to keep an eye on in terms of how it looks, and the S5000. I think they're going to be looking good. But Tommy T, there is a statement from AusGP, and of course you were covering this last time. I know. I've put it down on paper for you, so all you have to do is read it. But this is...
Who wrote the statement?
This is an easily accessible statement, Dave. I did put in a request for information to the AusGP. They haven't come back to me, but when they come back to me with a little bit more information, we can get that. But Tommy T, basically, it's saying that it is confirmed for the same,
but we don't know when.
For the same
we should
time
ask
slot.
the AusGP's official podcast what's happening.
You should do that. Yeah, I'm sure they'll definitely look at us and go, well, I really want to reply to these guys who constantly bash us, and for good reason, to be fair. But to be honest, they get all of the stars. Well, we've been going for 2 years and had 0 interviews. They've been going for 5 minutes and had like your Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo and stuff.
All right, good on him. He's a good guy. It's not a bad podcast.
Terrible interviews though. Okay, so that's the good news, right? So the second part of that question is if we're going to the pub afterwards, and of course the answer is yes.
Yep. Of course.
And before.
And during, to be honest, Campy's going to get all that free stuff. Remember, that's the entire reason he wants media passes.
With some hospitality, we'd be sorted. We wouldn't have to leave.
So there you go. That's exciting news for Australian fans. It looks like it's going to be the first race of the year in March. All of that is going to be fleshed out, but that's what AusGP is saying. So that's good news for us. We'll see that next year
in a Mercedes-powered McLaren.
It's going to be so good.
Yeah.
So good.
I still don't think we get the race.
I think they'll just have to suck it up and deal with it. The weight of Australia will have to say, just shut up, D'Andrews, and let it happen. It's coming anyway. I don't care.
It might be there, but it might be in Melbourne, but there'll be no fans.
No, but that to be honest, that's pretty typical of what we're seeing. There'll be occasional tracks.
Time zone.
Yeah, geez, wouldn't that be nice? I'm pretty sick of
set up little pubs outside around the whole track, and then have 25 people at each pub.
There you go. Geez, that sounds like an effective business model that's really going to help them survive. Okay, Tommy T. Let's talk about the TV broadcast for your review of this weekend.
There wasn't much, but I want to go straight to the flyover because that was one of the better ones we've seen.
Jeez, it wasn't a hell of a lot, though, to be honest. Well, look, it
there
was
wasn't
one
much for the...
We didn't even get the red, white, and green.
Green?
Going behind them.
The colour is the Italian flag.
Yeah. Mexico.
We're almost at Poland. Look, the flight pass was good. The Eurofighters, at least, as I said, the first time around when we were at Monza, it wasn't just the Aeromachis because they then stayed in the sky. But they only did it once and then they buggered off again. Yeah. Normally, I like it when they keep coming past and Martin Brundle really has to struggle to talk to whoever he's talking to. Generally, Simon Lazenby these days. But in terms of the presenters this weekend, obviously we had Karun Chandok, which is not ideal, but he was at the Skypad, which meant he wasn't always behind a microphone. So not
get
bad.
The Skypad to work for a bit as well. I don't know if that
what
was
a surprise.
Skypad's fault or his fault, but...
Who are we going to blame?
I think we'll blame Karun.
There you go.
But I don't know. He doesn't really have much to add most of the time. So putting him on the Skypad, I don't know what we were going to get other than him talking about his driving career.
Oh, and all it was when I'm racing here, I do this. It's like... Every time. Every time.
What was the debate about whether all the drivers had been around in a racing car? There was a bit of discussion about if Bottas had actually been in a racing car. He'd been in a fast car, but
Ted was on a tangent, right? He was going, and then I don't understand what's going on with Crofty. I've said this every bloody time. Yeah. He just want to have a crack at Ted. He's like, I don't think so, Ted. Ted's like, mate, I'm in a flow. Can you just shut up?
This week, didn't we?
It was good.
We did one with AlphaTauri. That was interesting.
That was really great.
Yeah.
Although I'm disappointed I didn't show the finance and HR department. Jeez, guys, come on, really.
He was just stoked on that big lift.
Yeah.
It's like the one they've got at IKEA, mate. It's the same thing.
All right, but give us a score. So overall for this weekend and
I think
what you saw.
because of the limited Karun, I think we're getting a 7.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty good.
What about the national anthem compared to the Russian one?
It's not as good.
It was good.
The intro is about 17 minutes. It's like, when does this start? Should I go away?
We had the
come
three
back again?
tenors bloody going off their head singing it.
To be honest, that was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're in comparison to the Russians, I don't think it was as good. But geez, it sounded
because the Russian
like our wedding ceremony, short and sharp. Get on with it.
Said like a true wedding photographer. Right,
get on with it.
You're done. Out you go. All right, boys. Well, let's talk about the races we always do, team by team. But before we do that, let's talk about drivers of the day. Tommy T, your driver of the day.
Daniel Ricciardo.
Campy, your driver of the day.
Danny Rick.
Good, and so's mine. Well, and if it wasn't that, all three of us would have to fire ourselves from this volunteer podcast.
How good's the podium?
It's pretty incredible. We'll get there. Let's talk about
let's
talk about Williams first, and something that broke everyone's hearts, which, of course, if Grosjean did it again, we would all laughed, and it would have been like, see you later, you're done. If you didn't see it, George Russell, warming up his tyres, was hit from behind by Marcus Ericsson from IndyCar. He came all the way across the ditch in his IndyCar, and I tell you what, side note,
I reckon
Marcus Ericsson, no man, he was on Twitter loving it. He was like, oops, I did it again, Britney Spears gif. There was like how to change location of Twitter, like posts. Like it was, to be honest, the most he's ever done on Twitter. Right. And it was amazing. But George Russell obviously making a mistake. It looked like the surface tarmac changed from to a newer laid down bit of tarmac and he just found it and booted himself into the wall.
What do you think, Campy?
Campy, of course, knows how to warm up a Formula One car very, very well. What happened to his tyres?
Well, he bent it. Every chance he's had this year, he stuffed it. So he's making those rookie mistakes of saying at the moment. That's bloody unfortunate for him, though.
He's the new Hulk, except with a podium, it's a point.
Yeah. And Nicholas Latifi in 11th was like very close. He was close to Giovinazzi towards the end. I was like,
I just feel like he's going to get a point.
This is the podcast commentator's curse. Totally. Tommy T's like, he's going to come in and completely, of course, take over from George Russell.
Kubica did it last year. It's going to happen again. He out-qualifies everyone. He's never been beaten in qualifying, but everyone gets more points than him.
It was a Mecca Hakkinen moment for him, though, wasn't it?
Head in his hands.
I don't know if EQ is measured for the track marshals, but they need to know when to leave the driver alone. They'd sort of like two of them walking out to them, and he's like, "Can you just go away, please?" And they're like, "Hello, would you like a scooter?" Also, we have the world's worst scooters to move Formula One drivers around.
The Italian track workers have form, though. Remember them at Mugello when they were trying to clear Stroll's car off the track.
They didn't want to move their table with their snacks.
10 dudes arguing. Oh, mate. A lot of shambles of the country.
It was also
shambles of opinions in one place.
Shambles of a track as well. I don't know if you saw with the safety car, the lapped cars were released too early, and not sure if you've seen this yet, boys, but Stroll's on board. He's gone past the safety car, and the marshals are still on the track picking up debris, and he is yeeting himself towards them very quickly. You can see the marshals go, well, what the hell's that car doing there? There's no safety car in front of it. So
Stroll was having a ripper, so if taken out a marshal, probably would have just topped it off.
Let's talk about him in a sec, because I don't want to get off Williams just yet. Good to hear that even with George's mistake, he was confirmed and rumours quashed, of course, this weekend that he will indeed be driving for Williams next year.
Need.
It was a bit unnecessary by Perez's camp, I think. But just goes to show how much support this guy's got. Okay, Campy, what did you think?
Get rid of Latifi and put Checo in there.
Oh, yeah, 100%. No, he'd bring more money. Telcel's got more sponsorship than Lavazza, and also it's probably got better coffee, even though it's a telecommunications provider. Just grind up some SIM cards. I'm sure it would taste better. But you're not wrong. Seriously, like, why would you not? Maybe that's the shock announcement, is that Latifi's going, oh, well, who cares? And Checo comes in. But no, it was good for George Russell. Like, genuinely, though, we saw the whole F1 community, including Romain Grosjean, comment on George's post on Instagram saying, I've been there, dude, don't worry about it. And even Lewis Hamilton going, like, you'll make mistakes. Mark Webber was there saying, this is how you polish it and get on with it. So, to be honest, rookie error, really, but good to see he's actually got a big fan base. And if there's one way to test it and cost a lot of money to your new owners, that's the way to do it. Haas were pretty dreadful this weekend, let's be honest. Kevin Magnussen ended up retiring because every time he upshifted, his head would hit the back of the headrest and gave him a headache. Which, to be honest, and look, Jeremy Clarkson tweeted this. That's not a reason. That is not a reason. It's not a health and safety reason. It's just an absolute pathetic excuse. And look, I'm sure it does hurt, and it's probably not very comfortable being in a Formula One car for 2 hours as it is. But come on, dude, really, like, the fact that you're driving really now for a seat for next year, unless you've been told no by anyone and you just don't care, just retire for the rest of the season.
At least get out of the car and fake dry reach or something.
Yeah.
Like it's,
or crash into someone. Go find someone who we want to be removed from the race and crash into him, and so everyone feels a bit happier.
He had that classic girlfriend kind of reaction of like, oh, it's really sore. It's like, are you okay? He's like, yes, I'm fine. Like, just wanting to be like, we're retiring it. He's like,
is this a good time to shout out to Bryony, Campy? Hi, Bryony, again, if you're listening. Twin boys.
He was saying it without saying
Twin
it.
boys. That's such a good point.
He did not want to be there.
No, and Grosjean 14th. I mean, it's a bit of a nightmare for Haas now, really. They know they're going out. There's not much really happening there. They're kind of just showing up, waiting for next year, and indeed the regulation changes for 2022. I really want Gunter to have some good drivers.
Grosjean did say over the radio at one stage when he got knocked out of Q1 by like 8/1000ths of a second or something. He did apologise to the team. He said, I feel really sorry for you guys. Guys work as hard as everybody else, and the car is as good as it's going to be this weekend, and to get knocked out by that, it's a real shame. So, I mean, I think Grosjean is pretty reasonable. K-Mag's not, but Grosjean's been in this sport long enough that, he's on the journey with his team and everyone there as well. He knows it's coming to an end, and it's he is sad about it, but he's looking out for the people that he's worked with for the last 5 years and the relationships that he's built as well. So, it sucks for that team. I mean, they're a bit like Williams last year. From the start of the year, they just had to go racing 17 weeks and suck it up. And enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, at least they don't have William Story hovering anymore. That's a positive for them for this year. Alfa Romeo, they started right down the very back of the pack and finished in the last two positions in the points. They got to be happy with that result.
Stuffing up in qualifying. He wasn't happy about that, by the way.
Oh,
he claims he was in.
Yeah, but what do you do? I guess you can't call the third umpire and say, "Well, no, put me back in."
He probably did.
Well, he was going through with his engineer on the video screens, looking at where he put his car on the track. The issue is here, and this comes back down to stewards and Michael Massey and the race director's notes and all that sort of stuff. You can't. You've just got to set it right. So the track limits are the track limits from when you arrive on the track. You can't have one practice session really or a day and then change everything for the race the next day or for qualifying in the afternoon. It just confuses the hell out of people.
To Kimmy's point, the curbs are the limit usually. So in this instance, they weren't. He's like, why the hell is a curb there then if I can't use it?
Yeah.
Like, you can use the curbs in every other part of the track, but this side, we've decided that that's over track limits. He's well within his rights to be annoyed at that. What do you reckon, Campy?
Didn't like it.
Well, and you got to remember their view as well. They're almost lying down, their heads just as low as their feet. So, I mean, their view of their tyres and where it is not exact either. So, they can't see the ground other than way in front of them. So they're lining up blind almost. And when Kimmy goes, "Oh, what's 2 mil?"
He said he could feel the curb though. Drivers will say they can feel it. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Track limits this year's been a disaster.
It's been frustrating.
Yeah.
It's just sort it out. It can't be that difficult to do it, seriously.
Well, I think it's bring back the grass and the gravel traps. No more runoffs. Yeah. Everything else is just, it looks like bloody Paul Ricard where it's just a whole big car park they've painted.
Yeah.
No wonder people run off track limits because there's bloody good tarmac out there to use.
Yeah.
So if they bring it back to a bit of punishment, and if you go off and you go over, you're going to spin and you're going to end up in the gravel trap. That'll keep people on track.
If you really want to see exploitation of track limits, just go look at the highlights from the Spa 24 Hours. They were coming off corners like 9 and 10, going the entire way out, basically touching the wall, coming back to the track, and you'll be like, "This is fine." So, but what is the advantage here when you talking about those curbs? Because of the vibration, it's not like the car's got consistent traction going all the way through. There's that slight jolt. So I think you're right, Campy. Martin Brundle says it pretty correctly. The white line is the track limit, right? You got as long as you keep a tyre within that for every track, the entire way around the calendar. If you just do that, fine, everyone makes it work. And he said, if you're slightly slower in one part, well, that means everyone's slightly slower there. It's not that you're losing anything, but you just got to have one rule, keep it there, and then just be done with it. Not the track limits here for this corner is different to this corner, but that's because you don't really go. And it's like, you're overcomplicating
different rules for the lines in tennis than every other. That's what it seems like. They're changing it every single race.
I don't get it.
It's crazy.
thomasjcamp.com.au/give me a job in the FIA.
Let's talk more about Kimmy. Talk about Kimmy during the race, Campy. He was awesome.
Who's that, sorry?
Kimmy during the race.
Superstar.
What a star. The guy is the gift that keeps on giving, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
40 years old, confirms for next year. It comes out and has the 2 best drives of the season in the last 2 races. He's got something to be excited about. Unfortunately for him, he's not in a car where the engine's no good and he can't show his true pace. But how many laps did he go on that set of tyres?
It was a huge stint.
It was ridiculous. And
if he had stayed out 2 more laps, he would have got the safety car that he wanted, which was the worst thing with Verstappen crashing.
But he was toe-to-toe with the works Ferrari for most of that race. And then
he and Seb were pretty much there. Yep.
That's bloody excellent.
Yeah, but again,
he would have kept Leclerc. If he was in front of Leclerc, he would have kept Leclerc behind him as well. So,
Yep.
But it was good to see him get some points in the end. So.
It's a shame, though, because he could have definitely been fighting up with that sort of Perez Leclerc crew if he'd waited 3 laps and put new boots on because, Imola sucks in terms of overtaking. This dude is a king at defence, right? He knows where to put that car. Even if he just had a qualified...
If he was probably going to get through to Q2 if he didn't have his track time deleted.
100%.
So if he started in a different position, like imagine.
Yeah.
Absolute star.
Imola. That's what he started. That was his hashtag for the weekend. AlphaTauri, stunning start potentially for the weekend for them in terms of qualifying for Gasly. He really is flying at the moment, and so good for them to literally just be down the road from their factory. Super concerning, of course, before the race started. They had the engine cover off and they were looking inside. Turned out to be a coolant issue and a leak in the car, which is, of course, not good when you're a Formula One car and Gasly having to retire. But
not when you want that power unit for a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it was on fire last time around, so it's not really going well for him, but his pace in his car, still pretty consistent. Campy, you mentioned that he was one of your drivers of the day for last time around. Is it the same, really? Could you? Well, let me say this. Could you see him going to a podium this weekend? I know we wouldn't have wanted him to beat Daniel Ricciardo. Okay.
Now, Danny Rick got him off the start. I think he probably would have held that position. And Checo would have got in front of him too. In saying that, he drove. Look, guys driving quick. Horner came out this week and was really critical of him. Said, "Hey, this car's a lot easier car to drive." And AlphaTauri haven't got it right at every track, but there's 2 or 3 tracks this year where that car's been lightning quick, and they've made some runs. Gasly complained this week. He said he was shocked that Red Bull didn't consider him for the main seat next year. And I was just like, dude, your performance in the car last year dictates your future with this team. Yeah. Why would you stay with AlphaTauri? Look elsewhere. You're up at.
Yep.
You're driving well. You're coming back, but you're in a. Look, I still don't rate him. I mean, I think he's better than Kvyat. We know that now. He's still in that same par as Albon with me. So,
yeah.
But he needed, another 2 years in that car, gets a couple of results. Hopefully, he can change across to somewhere else.
Yep.
And move his way up the ladder, because it's just not going to happen at Red Bull organisation.
I think that team love him. I think they're all about the Gasly at AlphaTauri. So he needs to stick with that, get a bit more confidence, get some more results, build up his own stock, and then he can probably try and get to a Renault or, I don't know, see where Haas is, see where all these other teams are developing into. So
by the time 2022 comes around, he will have sort of solidified himself as a good driver like Checo and Hulk in that level, and he'd have more experience in a car that seems to be pretty competitive and have the ability to pick up the scraps and maybe get 3rd, 4th, 5th occasionally, sometimes 1st, when you're at Monza, which was good for him. But again, how stupid is it that Red Bull are saying, well, that's an easier car to drive fast? It's like, well, why is yours more difficult to drive fast? Surely you're the one with more money. You make it anyway. That kind of blows my mind.
Sounds like a Racing Point.
As a criticism, like, of the guy. And then he turns around and supports Albon.
Don't underestimate Kvyat's drive, though.
Let's talk about Danny Kvyat, because he,
Kvyat's race pace is, like, time to time on the sheets is always consistent and, if not better, than Gasly's all year. Now, I did some research this week, and I went and actually did it. I was like,
goodness me. Strap in, guys.
Research on this.
I did. Kvyat's race pace is always, it's better, if not the same. Whereas Kvyat can't extract that one lap performance that Gasly's pulling out of the car. So, a shame for Kvyat moving forward. He doesn't have a drive. We probably won't see him in F1 again, but it doesn't surprise me that when his teammates lightning quick, that he came through the pack like he did and made some of the moves that he did. Probably lucky not to get a podium in the end.
Were you both worried that the torpedo was behind for those last 10 laps?
There was some dodgy overtakes going on.
Very nervous.
Yeah.
I was like, no, they're both out.
I was actually stoked George Russell crashed, because it just enabled the safety car for another 2 or 3 laps, and I thought that's what's given Danny the win.
Is going to happen.
Thanks, George.
But,
and then Leclerc will be on the podium, and that would just be the worst.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't deal with that again.
Could see it happening.
No, but look, shame for Kvyat, but he's made it. He returned when no one thought he was going to. So he's had a couple of years. He's got his podium last year. So
he's had 3 chances in F1, and most people only get 1, not 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have 3, well, lucky him.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about McLaren. They were totally off the pace all weekend. Didn't seem they could really sort of tie much together, but they finished in 7th and 8th, so not a bad points haul. There's 1 point between them, Racing Point and Renault for the constructors at the moment. Ridiculous how close that is for 3rd, which is great. Very excited about that. Yeah. But Lando Norris apologising for calling Lance Stroll an idiot, basically, from last weekend. He used a few more choice words for that. But look, fair play to him. I think there was a lot of, we didn't talk about this, but the language of Max Verstappen really caught a lot of people off guard and infuriated a whole country. And that's not okay. Like, you can't go around saying stuff like that. You can call the guy a dickhead. You can go Google it, Campy. You can go around and call the guy a dickhead. But that's hard. Anyway, that's what has lent into Lando apologising for calling him a dickhead. But also, it was interesting in his press conference afterwards. He was like, Lance does these sort of things, and he never learns from them. Learns from them. Anyway, that was just an interesting thing. But he seems to be doing pretty well. I think, as you said, Campy, last time around, Carlos has now sort of picked up his pace again, picked up a luck and showing the lead of McLaren. Not a bad thing at all by any stretch. Lando's got a big future in Formula One if he does all the right things.
Can we just get back to Max just giving us his real opinion? That's what we want to see out of people.
Real opinion and saying something offensive is not the same thing.
I'm not necessarily.
I'm all about it.
I'm not necessarily.
He wants to offend the whole country because of one dickhead driver that shouldn't be in the sport anyway. He can say what he wants.
He didn't offend Canada. He didn't offend Canada. I don't think they're offendable, to be perfectly honest. If you're listening to this from Canada, hello. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about him.
He can say whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants.
Well, he does, and he's Dutch anyway, so it's not like he really cares. Who's he going to, the Hague is there, and he's not going to go in. So, yes, I think you're right, but it certainly, what I was going to say, it certainly made it pretty clear that a lot of these drivers really, either some really take a lot of interest in what the public is saying about them, and some do not care. And you've got the Kimi Raikkonen, the Kevin Magnussen, the Max Verstappen, kind of almost Valtteri in a lot of ways in that category, and other people who, like Lando, he's got a huge online audience trying to make sure that he keeps that. It's just interesting. It's just another level of politics that in the heat of the moment you don't even think about. And why should you, I suppose? Okay, Carlos Sainz would have been a little bit happier more recently, of course, looking at the pace of Ferrari under Charles Leclerc. I can only imagine that they're not going to sabotage him like they're sabotaging Seb Vettel at the moment. Seb was in 12th and Charles ended up in 5th. Again, completely different race car. This is not indicative of Sebastian Vettel's driving style.
And that stop.
13 seconds.
Give me a break.
Come on,
what did you say last night? Oh, no, sorry, the gun's not working. The gun's not working. Oh, dear. It's a bit of a clown show, really. Still, isn't it? You think they'd get over it by now and just start looking for next year.
Oh, man.
This is like when people start fixing bloody NFL games and start dropping catches. This is getting silly.
Yeah, really. But look, we've spoken at length about Ferrari. I don't want to necessarily give the clown show too much more effort, but I will say I'm looking forward to Seb being able to regain some confidence with Aston Martin next year. Yep. But more importantly, I think as your whipping boy for most of this year, Campy, Charles is really outperforming that car of where it should be at the moment. His consistency is there, and he's even
been able to qualify.
Yeah. The dude can drive, can he?
He's proved me wrong. All the pressure's off him because he's beating Seb by so much, and he seems to be out driving the car. I think he's got a better spec, or there's something better about that car than the one that Seb's driving. But conspiracies of Campy, I think we'd all agree that Seb's pace doesn't make sense.
No, there's something funny going on.
But look, Leclerc's doing well. He's putting his car in the right positions, time. I mean, he's got a couple of podiums early, which was staggering.
Yes, it really surprising.
A lot of luck in those ones.
Yeah, sure, but we weren't expecting to see Ferrari anywhere near the front.
True.
They are luck, but we talked about this at the start of the year. We thought we knew Ferrari were going to be bad. We didn't know how bad they were going to be. We thought they might be the third or fourth best car on the grid, but not genuinely the sixth best car on the grid. And the Constructors' Championship suggests that as well at the moment. I mean, we got the three that are within a point, and then Ferrari's another 30-odd, 40-odd points behind the midfield, top three in the midfield. So that's staggering in itself. Hopefully they improve next year. And
it'd be good for Carlos. I really like Carlos. I think he's a really real driver, and there's no filter on him. He does what he does. He improves. He learns. He gets on with it, which is really good. Sad can't even use the English language. You'd think for the podcast that'd be good. Sad for Seb, but again, I'm excited for him to go to Aston Martin next year, and racing in British Racing Green is going to look bloody great. Racing Point, can you please either fire Lawrence Stroll from the board so that you can fire Lance Stroll, or somehow remove him from the picture and lock him up somewhere in Canada, because this is the worst driver on the grid as far as I'm concerned. He's also now attacking your team with his car. This is ridiculous. How is he still in Formula One? I know the dollars. I understand that. But surely someone in Aston Martin and this board for the Racing Point conglomerate can go, mate, do you want a winning team or do you just want this for your son? Because if you want this for your son, we're out. And if you want a winning team, get rid of him. Because the guy sucks. Everything, just at everything.
This was a shocking weekend. He just couldn't put anything together. I think the word for him is antisocial. I wonder if anyone actually likes him on the grid. Like, back to those Lando comments. Yep. He's like, he doesn't learn about these things. He seems like the rich kid showing up that has bought his way in and no one actually likes. He's just turned up. And this is in a sport of rich kids. Like, yeah, well genuinely. Said. Yeah. Like, he just doesn't seem to get along with anyone. I don't know. No one talks about hanging out with him. He just seems to turn up by himself and
Oz
go
F1
away.
Special on dud drivers, and he's going to be the first on our list. But you're exactly right. Campy, seriously, what is he doing in Formula One?
Well, but we know what we're going to expect from him. He's going to come out and he's going to perform next race. He's had 3 or 4 really bad races. This one from COVID. Then he's going to arse it on strategy. He's going to start 11th, fly through the mid-pack. Something happens to Verstappen and he's going to get a podium. That's consistently what this guy does throughout all year, which makes you think that, when he gets it right, he's got something to offer the team. But, now that Racing Point has stepped up, he's not in Williams anymore. That team stepped up into a genuinely top contender for the midfield, best of the rest. Driving under the performances that he consistently gives out is not going to do that team any good omens and get them good results at all. As I said last week, get him out, make him understand what he's missing out for a year. Get the passion, get the love. He's got to deal with the media in the better way. He's doing it because the kid's got, from what we see, he's got zero personality. He's not well respected on the grid between the other drivers. He's definitely not well respected in the community. And we would know that because every comment we get, Stroll's, this and that, blah, blah, blah.
Totally.
That's not necessarily his fault. He may be an introvert in a weird place, but he needs to give it something in order to give him some credit for who he is. But, you're totally right. But he's a frustrating driver to see on the grid in F1. But you know what? He's probably going to be around for the next 10, 15 years, so he should probably get rid of it.
That's how the sport works.
At some stage, he's going to come through the clouds and come out smiling, and we're going to get to know who he is. But it may be a product of his upbringing. We don't know. Behind closed doors with his friends, he's probably a super nice kid. Yep. But, he's thrust into this limelight that he doesn't really – he wants to drive because he's good. Don't get me wrong. He's driving in F1. Yeah. He's still in the top 1% of drivers in the whole world. But he may not. He might just, he might be a super introverted. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but, you've got to give the fans something in the sport because otherwise these are the conversations we're going to have to continually have about him.
Yeah, and not run over your own mechanics.
What's it look like next year, though, with Seb? What are we expecting?
I can just see Melbourne. We're at Melbourne. The whole crowd boos him. And laughs at him, because Aussie fans a lot, we're ruthless, and especially when this sort of stuff happens, we get it once a year. Well, he'll get knocked out and the whole crowd will cheer. That no one wants that.
No.
But he's going to get shown up by Seb anyway. So
yeah, indeed. But Racing Point seem to have dropped the ball recently as well. They may have hired Renault's strategist halfway through this year, it would look like. Why you would pit Checo? Why Checo even bothered listening? He should just turn the radio off and done his own race. He would have been better off. But they had the strategy, to be fair to them, and then they completely buggered it. But Checo was out of place in qualifying, wasn't he? It's not really where you see him, and he had a good drive really to jump that many cars with strategy. Yes, it was traffic and everything else, but he didn't deserve to be down there. And what he does deserve rather is a drive in Formula One.
Still get 6 after that was still bloody good.
Yeah.
No, but he started in 11th. and that car got 3 choice of tyres. Yep. And unfortunately, when Albon or Leclerc decided to try and get the undercut on Danny Rick, the car in front, or 2 cars in front of them, that made a chain reaction from that 4th back to 8th place, where they all had to react the very next lap. And it was probably 5 or 6 laps earlier than it should have been, or what the teams optimally wanted. But that strategy-wise, that played into Racing Point's hands. Now, I'm shattered. I'm shattered for 2. Like, I've got 2 minds of this. I'm shattered for Perez because any other day he would have got a podium and it would have been a great result for him and his team. Again, he's on the out and he's giving them the big finger and doing it right. On the other side of it, where he actually finished was indicative of that car's real pace, and he probably should have ended up behind the McLarens if it hadn't been for the incident. They should have kept him out.
Yeah,
totally.
I think track position was always going to trump speed in this case, and we'd known that from day one. I think they stuffed up there, but
your Racing Point even said, we were surprised that the other teams didn't pit. It's like, why? You had 13 laps to go, and really,
yes,
interesting.
Anyway, but if Danny Rick hadn't have got that podium, I would have been going, I feel really sorry for Checo, but Danny Rick got the podium, so I don't care.
So not.
And Danny Rick deserved that podium.
Yeah. Let's just talk about Red Bull before we talk about Renault in the podium order. Albon 15th, he really just secured his lack of Formula One drive by doing an unforced error, spinning there in the chicane. Was disappointing really for him because, Tommy, you and I were I think there's a little glimmer still in the back of our mind somewhere hoping that he would actually put it together and be good. But,
I think
he sort of sealed his fate, hasn't he?
Mine too.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good to know. But that's surprising, to be honest.
You can't do this. He was so lucky to actually get that car to qualify into Q3. Genuinely, he had that many times deleted. When you're seeing that level of inconsistency and undisciplined driving, it's pretty clear why he's not doing so well this year.
There's a heap of pressure on the guy. Right? I can't even imagine. It would suck a lot. There's only a young bloke still too, and there are so many people out there unnecessarily hating on him. Like, yes, you're not performing. That's a fact. But telling him he's a piece of shit and whatever, all the other comments that you see around.
But that's
not.
I'm critical of his driving.
Yeah, correct. There's unnecessary that we as a Formula One community sometimes really suck at that sort of stuff. And it's like, and the example is Grosjean bins it, everyone laughs at him. Russell bins it, everyone's heartbroken. Like exactly the same situation and two very completely different things. It sucks. So, it's hard for him, and I don't want to necessarily see him go, but it's because of what we saw with Tsunoda in AlphaTauri, or what we're likely to see, I should say. It means he's going to be out of Formula One, and you can pinpoint the moment in the last couple of laps of this race.
Yep.
But Red Bull is still seriously considering keeping him on next year.
No, they're not. No way. No way.
Well,
I don't think he'd stay on even if he won the next race. I don't think I saw
a Horner interview, and he was again this week.
Yep, Karen's very good at telling the truth.
I know they got form, but for Horner to come out and say Gasly's results not that surprising, it's the way his car to drive, Albon's doing this way better than him, we really want him for next year because we believe in him. I'm just going, I can see him keeping his seat next year.
They're defending their own position because they kind of almost look like Muppets defending themselves, don't they? Really?
Yeah.
I think it's more self-preservation in that respect from him than anything else, and not that he needs to because he, is running
it's a shame.
Successful Formula One team. Okay, well, Renault, Danny Ricciardo third, and he was shocked, but he didn't forget the shoeies this time, which was bloody fantastic. So much so that Lewis Hamilton probably caught COVID from his boot, which I'm sure the alcohol would have killed it, but. Geez, that was so good to see. And Renault, hanging off the fence. If there was any one more person, the fence would have come down and they would have been on the track, I think. So good to see for them, though. But he's outperforming that car, isn't he?
He's literally keeping him in the constructors single-handedly.
Yeah.
Genuinely. This guy's a star.
Campy, it's the best investment Renault's ever made, don't you think?
I think Danny Rick's qualifying has set him up this year. He's lifted his qualifying to another game. I mean, one lap in Q3 nails it. I mean, he probably
the confidence just to do one lap as well.
Oh, yeah, true.
I mean, if he was driving against Max, we'd probably be super critical of, where does he find that extra 10th? And he's driving against a dud in Ocon, but you can see the way Danny Rick's carrying himself at the moment. He's got no weight on his shoulders. He's performing well. He's out driving the car, out driving the teammate. We can see it in the media. We can see it on the TV. All his interviews, he's happy-go-lucky. He knows he's going to a McLaren next year, which is probably the up-and-coming seat that he wanted to get to when he left Red Bull with a Mercedes engine in it. He's going to be driving against Lando. He probably thinks that Lando and Ocon are the same sort of ilk. And he's super excited to go into next year and be in a car that can get him there. And everything he gets with Renault, they achieve their goals that they set out to achieve 2 years ago. He's got 3 more races, and he's just driving with an ease.
Yeah.
I don't think we see very often in Formula One.
He certainly looks a lot happier, doesn't he, Tommy?
Oh,
yeah.
100%. Well, this just goes to show. So in the constructors, you've got Renault coming third, and then a point behind is Racing Point and McLaren. Right. All of the other drivers are between Ricciardo and Ocon. That's how far the gap is between these two and the points haul. That is ridiculous. He's holding that team together single-handedly. He's unbelievable.
We can be critical of Ocon. He's not getting the 1 lap pace. His race pace seems to have improved over the last 3 to 4 races. But again, in that mid-pack, because it's so tight, especially on a track like this, you can't afford to get stuck behind your 2 rivals in your McLarens and Sergio Perez and the Kvyats and Gaslys. I mean, you can't afford to do that because you're not going to be able to pass them because the machinery is so even.
Yeah.
But he's going to have to – he's got 1 more year in Formula One next year or he's out.
Well,
he's going to have to take it to a 2-time world champion in Fernando Alonso and show that he's got something between his legs and move on. But
that's also it's going to be interesting to see how Fernando performs in this Alpine, which is going to be the exact same car as this year, as a benchmark for Danny Rick, to be honest, because we're seeing how this is performing, and they've never obviously been in the same team together. Everyone rates Nando as an incredible driver. I think a lot of people just rate Danny Rick as an incredible person, and then by the way, he's last of the late breakers or whatever buzzwords they want to use. But he genuinely is quick over 1 lap. Put him in a Mercedes for the last little while instead of Lewis Hamilton, and he would have absolutely trounced it. But he could,
that move he made around the outside of Magnussen was just I know Magnussen was slow, but to go around the outside, late break, trail break right into it, and then it was lovely to watch. It was a beautiful move.
Yeah, and millimeters in it before Kevin Magnussen had taken him out.
One of the true overtakes of that race, to be honest. There wasn't much.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was so good to see, and he deserves it. Of course he does, because we love him. Okay, well, let's talk about Mercedes. This has to be the luckiest person in Formula One, doesn't he, in Lewis Hamilton? Not to take away from the fact that he can drive, but VB is probably the unluckiest person in Formula One at the moment. We're talking about earlier, Campy, you said, Lewis wants to be challenged and pushed. I mean, how much more challenged and pushed do you want when VB pulls out those lap times in quali? Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't his fault that Sebastian Vettel decided, he was running Ferrari Aero. That's why he sucked so much for most of the race.
I don't think we realised how much until we understood that he had an issue with his aero, how much downforce he lost. That's ultimately why he locked up and made the mistake into 9, which allowed Verstappen to get past him. But Valtteri, he's performing. He's getting it right. He's just putting all those good luck chips in his bank for next year, I think. I don't think he cares what happens this year. All those good luck chips get in his bank. But for Lewis, we all called it too.
Yeah.
As soon as Lewis decided to stay along, I was like, there was 4 other people in the chat that said, just wait, a yellow flag will come out. Now, to Michael Massey, you absolute dickhead. That car was 3/4 of the way off the track and so far out of position. I understand you got to call the virtual safety car out in order to keep the people that are on track work trying to get Ocon's car off the track safe. But it was out for half a lap. The job was 3/4 done, and then you called it in. You gifted a race to Lewis Hamilton, which was sick of seeing him win.
To be honest, he had the 28-second gap. I think he had the work pretty much done. It just
but sure,
it.
there's a couple of seconds though in it. Like anything could have happened. This, like the VSC, the fact that it turned on just before, like he was, I was like, oh, the VSC's on. Right, here I go. And then, VSC ending. Oh, he's just leaving the pit lane. Great. So like no one else was able to take advantage of that. Just him. Seriously.
I think it's a bit unfair to say that Lewis wouldn't have got it done. He had the gap. I reckon this just gifted it to him, and just confirmed it.
I think though,
but I'd rather see him go into the pits. His team pull out a 1.9 second pit stop.
Make it more interesting.
He's on cold tyres too, so Valtteri would have made them. I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. It's it just seems a
little
right
place, right time.
To him. Right place, right
bit
time.
Convenient, isn't it?
Ooh, yeah.
It's just such a shame for VB. Also, Lewis completely blanked Tiffany Cromwell, and if you blank an Australian, watch out. Say hello to her next time when you're celebrating. VB,
she
we
was
love you, mate.
him too.
Oh, she was great the whole time. When the podium was like, Toto was there, was like, yeah, this is really great. Behind, she was like,
that's what you want in a woman right there. Just shitty at the work because he didn't get the win.
Tiffany, you have Oz F1's 100% support, of course. Love that. Maybe we get on the podcast one day. Well, look, huge congratulations to Mercedes for securing that, even if it was VB or Lewis. Look, they deserve it. Toto deserves it. And you know, James Allison's done a magnificent job there as well. Be interesting to see what happens at the end of the year and where they decide to go with Toto and what he sort of has in terms of involvement going forward. Well, boys, the Fantasy League, of which Campy probably doesn't care about, but Tommy T should care less about.
I was going to use my Mega Driver this weekend, but...
Who are you going to use it on?
Lewis.
I forgot to do it. I was going to do it Friday night, but there was no practice, so...
There you go.
Let's talk about that quickly. Just a 2-day weekend.
Yes, 2-day weekend.
Kind of into it.
Well, it was short, sharp and shiny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest...
Don't worry about it. Campy missed Fridays. He likes Fridays.
Yeah, I like Fridays.
I like Fridays too.
Immersing myself in the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm with you, Campy.
We've got 23 races next year. That's going to take its toll on a lot of the teams. So, you know, the middle of these triple headers, have a two-header weekend, a 2-day weekend in the middle of a triple header works for me.
Yeah, yeah, couldn't agree.
I just like to see teams come out with less data, less practice under their belts. Just throw a spanner in the works, see if they can perform on just one practice.
I mean, it's hard for a track like Imola when you haven't been here for so long.
It's kind of the worst one to do it on, to be honest.
You're correct.
If we did it at Spain, fair enough. We've been there enough.
Right, and that's the point. Like, you don't necessarily need a Friday in somewhere like Silverstone or Monza or Spa because you've been there, forever, basically.
Yeah.
But
the data's there. We can drive it on the simulators, all those kind of things.
Exactly right. The only thing about a 3-day weekend that's worse is that you get more commentators, more former drivers who are apparently the best people to be presenting to camera. I still don't understand that. Paul DeResta.
You two cynical
bastards. Give me
bastards.
a break.
You've come out again. You've come out again 2 weeks in a row.
Jensen Button's been the best one to come out. If you get more JB...
He's nowhere near the cameras anymore. He's gone back to the US. Come back to the UK, please, Jensen. We miss you. Okay, well, let's talk about the Fantasy League. Some great team names again. Here's a couple. Ginger Spice Horner, Jay Lauder. Time to get my Facon. Reardon. You spin me. You spin my Vettel really right good. Round. Glenn Adams, love that. You got to say this really quickly, so C Bridges, I'm probably going to stuff this for you. Antonio, gee, he's not fast, is he? Kind of sounds like Giovinazzi, doesn't it? Dave Munnis just every week, mate.
Every week.
I should have Oz F1 powered by Dave Munnis's Fantasy League name. Have you been injured at work? By Lance Stroll? And Imola out of luck. Hayden Morrill. Good. Love that. The top three haven't changed the last 3 weeks. I think you three are probably going to be it. All hail Danny Ricard Moxley. Yes. 2,750 points. I ran out of funny names. You've smashed it the last little while. 2,652. Well. And Timmy Bowden, 2,599 in third. Love that. Campy, you're coming 23rd, mate. You're going further away.
I was 25th last week.
Were you? Oh, yeah. Sorry, that's right. You are getting better. I was trying to put you off.
How do you remember that?
No. I don't care about fantasy. Goes logs in and just looks at all of the bloody data. He's talking to Roman Grosjean going, I need some more data. Give it to me. Tommy T, good news for your team that you still don't have access to. It's gaining. up the ladder.
I think it's because the team I do have access to only has half of the team, because I was planning on making a big move and it didn't come off.
Oh, no, that
Where's
went really
my boy
well
Harry?
You'll have to go and have a look, mate. That's all to look there. Look, if you have joined, thank you. There's about 67 of us at the moment. We love it. It's genuinely the best part of my Monday is going through and seeing how you've updated the names. A lot of Aussies. It's great to have that support, but there's people from the US and Canada and the UK as well. And shout outs to all of you. This is a great
Texas.
This is a great review because. A couple of months ago, we had this review, and it was your ill-informed rants, Campy, and of your uninspired geopolitical analysis.
Still true.
Which is still true, but KLDW, you have changed it to a 5 stars, and I just want to say thank you. Genuinely, we have spent a bit of time trying to make this podcast better. We're going to make it even better again, and when we have better cameras and we're a little bit out of isolation, at least for you two boys, we'll make that work. But 5 stars, I love that you love it too, and also from Denmark, Pal18, great reviews, fun laughs. Nice to get fun and no compromised Formula One reviews. Well, that is an understatement, I think. No compromise. That's Campy's life motto. No compromise. Big fans of DR, of course, and Kimi Räikkönen. So that's always good. Love it. I love that we're all over the world as well. We charted all over the place. We're in Israel. We're in the UK, the US, Germany, Spain, here, New Zealand. Crazy. It's epic. So genuinely, if you're listening, it's
genuinely staggering.
It's awesome to be here. We love that you guys get involved. The Discord chat is growing every race weekend. A couple more people join, which is just becoming a little bit of mayhem when something happens. There's like 30 messages all at once, but I love it.
And Campy hates it because he's delayed.
It's like, oh no, Danny Ricciardo's like, Tammy's like, no, I can't. What? I don't understand.
Campy's going to have to get Foxtel satellite now.
But it's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. Hey, if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks very much. Subscribe. We'll do some more video content, which will be shorter format. If you've watched the entire podcast on YouTube, well, good for you.
You are a legend.
That's a long time looking at the three of us.
I'm not sure my face is ahead for video, but...
we just need to get a better camera and some green screens behind you, mate. And we'll just soften you up.
Yeah.
We'll soften you up.
See how wide my shoulders really are.
Prepping. But hopefully we can get into the Australian Grand Prix. We'll get some content there for you as well. But boys, as always, absolute pleasure doing this with you. Thank you so much for listening to Oz F1. Thank you to the boys at Entente as well for all the music. As always, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review if you haven't already, boys. We will see you in a fortnight's time at Turkey.